Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. This is Brant Kasbaum speaking. It is live. We're coming to you live on Wednesday, the 18th, here at 11 o'clock in Wisconsin. Thanks again for joining us. And while we let some additional people get added in, I'll briefly cover a couple of quick housekeeping items. First is that we're recording this webinar today, so if you can't stay for the whole thing, you can plan on maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes maybe is what I'll speak to you today. But if you can't stay for the whole thing, this will be recorded and then archived on our website and on our YouTube channel for viewing later on down the line. Also, if you've got questions, please input them into the chat bar on the right-hand side of your screen. I will answer all of those questions at the end of the webinar. And if you're watching the archived versions of this webinar at some point in the future, please email me any of the questions that you may have. You can also visit our website, and there's a chat function on the website where you can ask any questions via the chat function on the website. With that, we'll get started. Back when I spoke to you in a previous webinar in April, we talked about our COVID protocols and how much uncertainty there was back at that time, about 7 months ago. Well, here we are still operating under the same COVID protocols. Cases are pretty high here in Wisconsin, but as such, we continue to remain open for business. We're doing the best we can to distance and follow all of the COVID protocols that we had set up back in March and April. Over the summer, we acquired a new building, so we're able to spread out and space things out as much as possible. And we continue to be open, and we continue to be an essential business, and we continue to ship product every day thanks to you, our customers. During the upcoming holiday season, we'll be open every day, Monday through Friday, with the exception of Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Day, and New Year's Day. So that's where we stand. I didn't think that we'd still be operating under these COVID protocols 7 months down the line, but like you, we're doing the best we can, and we appreciate any input and feedback that you all may have. So what's new here at ACI? We've got 5 new and forthcoming products that we're going to talk about today, starting with our spot leak detector. And then we'll talk about the new metal clad cable option for our WPR2 wet-to-wet differential pressure transmitter. We've expanded our communicating sensor line to now feature Modbus options. We've added a volatile organic compound and particulate matter sensors to our catalog. And we've also expanded our thermal buffer and glycol bottle options for your low temp and cryogenic applications. Starting with our spot leak detector, this is a very small, very easy to install spot leak detector designed to trip a relay whenever any conductive fluid touches either of these sensing elements. So these sensing elements have adjustable height, so they can be mounted, at the bottom of a sump tank or a condensate pan, or next to a floor drain to detect if there's like a sewer backup or a plumbing failure or backup of some variety. They have completely potted electronics, so they can be completely submersible without any rust or corrosion, and yet are a very, very small footprint. They work with any conductive fluid, as I mentioned, and have a full 2-year warranty. One thing I'd like to highlight about these parts, or this spot leak detector, is these are often used as a fail-safe or a last line of defense to protect critical equipment and critical facilities from flooding or some catastrophic water event that can damage equipment or facilities. This is not the type of product that you want to search for the cheapest option out there, as these are fail-safe devices that can be used to potentially prevent thousands and thousands of dollars of damage. You want to ensure that this product is going to work and going to work when you need it most. Having one fail after a flood or a major leak is not the time that you want to find out that the spot leak detector didn't work. So with that said, this device is not the cheapest one that you're going to find out in the marketplace, but we stand behind this product 100% to guarantee that it will work and it will trip upon the slightest detection of any conductive fluid as it touches those two sensing elements. The next new product that we'll talk about today is the new metal clad cable option for our wet-to-wet differential pressure transducer. This is a 304 stainless cable that encases the wire. The internal wires are run through the metal clad cable, so it provides end-to-end protection and eliminates the need for conduit couplings, fittings, and elbows. This can be run through exposed space without having to run additional piping or additional conduit. It makes for much greater level of protection and durability during installation, because if this cable is pulled on while it's being installed or while it's up in operation, if somebody catches the cable with a ladder or hooks onto it somehow, if this is pulled, it's just the metal cladding that is pulled. It's not the internal cable. And so this is a very durable, rugged addition to our wet-to-wet differential pressure transducer to provide a higher level of protection both during install and then also during continued operation. The standard lengths are 10, 20, and 40 feet, and we do have other lengths available by special order. Third on the new product list is the expansion of our communicating sensor line. Previously, we offered temp and humidity sensors with BACnet MSTP, and they were available in room, duct, immersion, and outdoor air configurations for temperature, and then room, duct, and outdoor air for humidity. Well, we're adding a Modbus option to that, so it's a user selectable or field selectable option, so you can select between either BACnet or Modbus. And we've also expanded the number of configurations that these communicating sensors are available. You can now get them in strap-on, stainless plate, and averaging. All three versions of the averaging sensors that we do will be available with this communicating feature. The humidity will still be available in room, duct, and outdoor air. And on any of the humidity sensors, you can add a temperature output to that as well. We maintain a very high level of accuracy in these devices. It's plus or minus 1 degree F for the temperature and plus or minus 2% on the relative humidity side. Very easy to install and operate. They have an auto baud rate feature that it automatically detects the baud 5-year warranty. And we're seeing these being used in applications where you have a limited number of controller inputs, or you don't want to add another controller for one sensor way to get a sensor on your network temperature and or humidity. For these Modbus sensors, they aren't available quite yet. We're looking at about 2 weeks until these will be ready and available for production, and our website will update accordingly. The fourth new product, organic compound and particulate matter sensor. Now, these are two different sensors. It's not both in one unit. So we have VOC and particulate matter sensors. These are available in room and duct configurations, both containing a metal oxide semiconductor sensing element. And if you get the room unit with LCD, it also includes a relay contact that trips at 230 parts per billion. These have analog or Modbus outputs, and the analogs are either 0 to 10 or 4 to 20 milliamp output. The range for the VOC device is 0 to 1,000 parts per billion of TVOC. That's total volatile organic. That while saying they're VOC, they're outputting a 0 to 2,000 ppm equivalent of CO2. So they're using, on those types of sensors, they're using VOC to try to calculate a CO2 equivalent to be used in demand control ventilation, or to be used as a measure of occupancy in a certain space. This is giving you, our device is giving you the true or the total VOC output. And the reason why we're doing that is because while occupancy can increase VOCs in a space, and it's often that the higher the occupancy of a given space is, the higher the VOC concentration. It's not always the case. They're not completely tied together. You can have VOCs present in a space that has very limited or no occupancy. VOCs can be present from cleaning materials, from paint on walls. It can be present in like off-gassing from new carpeting and things like that. So that's why our device is giving a true or total VOC output and not a CO2 equivalent. We do have CO2 sensors available, so you can get a actual CO2 output. These devices are fully ready to go. We will switch that over on our website so that you'll be able to see them, that they're available, and be able to place orders for those. The fifth new product or new product addition that we'll discuss today is we've expanded the thermal buffer and glycol. That one comes with 3 ports in the top for applications where it requires multiple redundancies. So you can put up to 3 different sensors within that bottle. We can ship them either empty, just the bottle by itself. We can put a food grade glycol, so we can ship it filled with a food grade glycol solution that's rated to -40 C. Or a new option, we can ship them filled with small glass beads that are rated to -100 C. And they can be paired and used with any thermistor or RTD sensor, or RTD paired with analog transmitter. And these are for the applications for cold storage or very low temperatures, freezers, refrigerators, pharmaceutical storage, and any other type of cryogenic application. The idea here is that these provide a buffer so that if a cooler or freezer door is opened, the sensor doesn't get hit with a rush of room temperature air and put the system into an alarm status. So it essentially slows the response time down so that you can get a better trend of what the temperature is in that space. Also mention that these are all now shipped with the bracket that you see in the picture. So the bottle is included with the bracket, and you can get them either filled or empty in the 2 sizes that we have. So those are the 5 new products that we've come out with recently. Like I mentioned, the glycol bottle, the thermal buffers are available now. The metal clad cable for the WPR2 wet-to-wet transducer is available now. The spot leak detector is available now. The Modbus option is going to be about 2 weeks, probably a little less than that. And then the VOC and particulate matter sensors are going to be available in about 3 to 4 weeks from now. So thanks for joining us. I'll answer some questions now. I had some questions that were sent in ahead of time, so I'll go through those first to give you an opportunity, those of you that are watching live, to continue to input questions on the in the chat feature. So I've got a handful of questions here that I'll go through first. Feel free to continue to input any additional questions in the chat. First question that was sent in the other day is, how do you power the SLD leak detector? And that device is powered with 24 volts AC or DC. And that's a good rule of thumb. The vast majority of our products, whether they be the leak detector or the wet-to-wet pressure transducer that we talked about today, the VOC sensor, the vast majority of our parts are powered by either 24 volts AC or DC. We do have a couple parts that are DC only and a couple that are AC only, but a good rule of thumb is you can put 24 volts AC or DC to most of our parts. And with the leak detector, though, keep in mind that if you're using DC power and the relay trips, you'll have to cycle that power to get the relay to unlatch. So that's on DC power only. Another question is, how long is the cable for the spot leak detector? Yeah, good question. I should have mentioned that. It comes by default with 14 feet of plenum rated cable. That cable can be cut down or added to as needed. Another question is, what's the accuracy of the VOC sensor? And that's a good question. if you notice on the data sheet, there's not an accuracy specified for the VOC sensor. And the reason that is because VOCs, volatile organic compounds, it's not one particular gas or one particular compound. The VOC sensors measure a range of gases or compounds that fit within that spectrum. So as such, there's no way to get an accuracy specification for any particular gas in that compound or in that spectrum. So it's noted, and we should, it should be very clear that these VOC sensors are designed to be used for indoor air quality. They're not designed for life safety applications where there could be a potential leak of one of these gases. If you have a specific gas that you're looking to monitor leaks, or there's a like an industrial source of a certain gas, there are specific gas sensors that are designed to give you an accurate output or reading of that particular gas. But these VOC sensors, they're designed to be a cost-effective way to measure VOCs for indoor air quality. Along that line, for the particulate matter sensors, and I should have mentioned this in the presentation, what's the measurement range and accuracy for the particulate matter sensors? And we are able to specify an accuracy for the particulate matter sensors. The measurement is in microns per square meter. So that's a number of microns per square meter of space. And the particulate matter sensor outputs 0 to 500 microns per square meter. The accuracy is plus or minus 10%, plus or minus 10 microns. And it measures particulates from 0.3 to 2.5 microns in diameter. Another question is, do you have communicating pressure or gas sensors? And for gas sensors, yes, we do have some BACnet MSTP gas sensors. We do have some Modbus gas sensors. We do have a BACnet MSTP temp, humidity, and CO2 sensor that are available now. Going forward, we plan on continuing to expand our communicating sensor line, and pressure sensors are in that plan. So moving forward, we will have at some point in the future communicating pressure sensors. So stay tuned for that. I don't have a definite date on when those are going to be available, but please stay tuned. And as more info becomes available and ready, we will send that out. Another question is, are there other relay trip points for the VOC sensors? Yes, I mentioned a few minutes ago that by default, the VOC sensor trips at 230 parts per billion. There is a jumper inside that allows two other options, one a little bit higher and one a little bit lower. So you can user select those that relay trip point. Let's look at some questions that have been submitted online. About the metal clad cabling, can we stock the cables separate of the transmitter to reduce the SKUs? Yes, we do have part numbers available, so you can buy the cables separate from the transducer. You can also buy the cables to be used with just a standalone gauge pressure transducer as well. Another question is, are we able to get the stainless plate sensor in BACnet? Thanks, Chuck, for answering that question. I believe so. I will have to follow up with you on that. So I don't see a reason why we can't do that sensor in a stainless plate configuration, but I will verify that with our engineering team and reach back out to you, Chuck. Next question is there a local display available for the thermal buffer? Not in and of itself. You can use like a 4 to 20 output device transmitter with the thermal buffer, and then have the output from that device plug into a remote display to measure the temperature. So that would be ordered as a separate product, but we do have that available. It's not built into the thermal buffer itself, but if you wanted to have a remote display, say outside of the cooler or outside of the space, yes, we do have an option for that. And another question is, Does the spot leak detector work with fuel? It does. It works with any conductive fluid. So any, depending on the specific type of fuel you're referring to, any conductive fluid will cause the spot leak detector to trip immediately upon contact with the sensor elements. Any other questions that have been submitted? I don't see anything else. So with that, I'll conclude by saying thanks again for watching. This is the last live webinar that we'll do for the year 2020. We know that it's been a very interesting and very challenging year for everybody, for individuals, for families, for businesses. And so we very much appreciate your business. We appreciate the partnership that we have with all of our customers, with all of our vendors, and with all of our employees. And so I'll just conclude today by speaking on behalf of everybody here at ACI, the over 200 employees that we have here today, just by saying thank you. We hope you have a great Thanksgiving holiday and a prosperous 2021, and we'll be speaking to you again soon. Have a great day.